Thank you so much for joining Story to Story with Shannon and Shamona. So
Thank
I
you
have
so
Shamona sitting
much.
here with me. So tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, yes. So I am a mother,
Mhm,
entrepreneur, and I also work as a registered nurse.
mhm.
I've been basically doing nursing for a little over, I'd say 12 years altogether.
Oh, wow.
Because I started out as a CNA and then I worked my way up the ladder. I
Mhm.
did my LPN and then I went back and got my bachelor's in nursing and became an RN. So
Mm.
I've been doing that, traveling, and I got into entrepreneurship because I felt like, at this time in my life, I was ready for a change. I was
Mhm.
like, you know, working in nursing is definitely a passion of mine, but I also have an inner boss inside. So I want to be able to do my own thing.
I love it. I love it.
Yes, yes.
So, like in regards to the nursing, that is kind of like the type that you do, kind of more like the boss style of it, right? Like the travel nursing.
Correct.
Yeah, so you
Correct.
get to kind of set your own
Set your own
schedule.
schedule.
Yeah.
The contracts usually you do through an agency, so they tell you where you're gonna be and how long, but you
Mhm.
get to dictate those things. So
That's nice.
yeah, it is like you work as your own independent person. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're going to start with your story, really talking about how you got there. Because we know it wasn't always, unicorns and peaches and
Cream.
cream.
Absolutely not.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Like, where are you from?
Okay, so I was born originally in Newport News, Virginia.
Mhm,
My father was military, so we moved a lot.
mhm,
I grew up in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and then shortly after that, my father got orders to go to Japan.
mhm,
So we wound up moving overseas and were there for about 4 years in total, even though I did wind up moving back to the States a little early to finish out high school with my grandmother.
mhm.
So, that was a big turning point for me at that time because I was only 16 years old and I was basically sent back here to the States to finish out the last 2 years of my high school by myself.
Mhm.
So it was really hard. It was
Yeah.
different. My parents were all the way across the country, like on a whole other side of the world. So I feel like that was like the start of my independence as a
Mhm,
young woman. Being 16, I had to get a job. I was helping my grandmother when I could. And then, it was just difficult because it was like finding the days in and days out of what to do. And of course, as a young lady, you just don't know. You don't know
mhm,
what to expect, and I was still learning so much even about myself. So,
mhm.
I felt like I was a little lost during that time of life, and I feel it took a while for me to still discover like so much about myself before I even came into knowing who I am as a woman.
Right, because those are like critical years,
Correct.
right? So you were about 16, you got sent back here, right?
Correct.
So talk to us a little because if I can remember, something happened
Hmm.
that got you sent back. So talk to us about that.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Unfortunately, it wasn't a choice my father had. I would say I was dealing with a lot of like anger issues during
Hmm.
my teenage years. So I was involved in some things that I shouldn't have been, and I got in trouble a couple of times on base. So it was kind of like the points were adding up, and they were like, okay, this is the last straw for her. So it's either you send her back or we're going to send your whole family back. So he was given an ultimatum. And it was very difficult for my dad, I know, and for my whole entire family, of course. But he didn't want to have to let me go. But then it's like it was either let me go or my whole family would have had to go. My brother and my mother would have had to leave too, and he would have had to stay by himself
Wow.
to finish out his duty on the base. Yeah,
Okay, so you were then sent to an aunt.
correct. I was initially sent to live with an aunt, and it just didn't work out with her.
Hmm.
And so um, she has mental health struggles. So unfortunately, I had to leave from her household and go and stay with my grandmother. And she lived in a very tough neighborhood, as we call it,
Hmm.
not the best. And it was a lot of, activities on the corners, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it was just, I made the best of it. I made the best of it, and I was new to the school, new to the area, so I had to learn like everybody, there in the school. That was hard because it was a lot of like um, pushback being a new
Mhm.
person, not growing up in that town. It was a small town too, so it was just like, well, who is this girl? Where's she coming from? Japan? Where you? What you mean? So I got picked on for that too. It was like a black girl from Japan. No, but I was like, I wasn't born there, you guys. Like I was just there before,
Mhm.
But in a small town, it sounds so, I guess exotic to people.
Of
It's like,
course.
how's she
Mhm.
coming from Japan? So yeah, so I dealt with a lot there too, but I feel like it definitely helped mold me a
Mhm.
lot into who I am now. Like I don't have a issue like adapting to different environments and change, So it did help me develop in those areas. So
Now, did you have issues in Japan as well, being a black girl, or?
I would say what a lot of people don't know is when you are in a Department of Defense
Mhm.
school, all of the children on base are from military homes, military
Oh.
families. So
You weren't like intermingling with the population.
we had a chance and opportunity to
Okay.
go, but it was off base. Yeah,
Oh.
you live on a base, so you really have like a structural. It's like a little city inside of the big city.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was American kids there.
Okay, got it. That makes
Hmm.
sense. So you were then sent back here,
Yes,
and you're with this aunt who has mental illness,
correct,
right? She
correct,
kicks you out, or you
correct.
guys have some kind of.
Altercations.
Right.
Yes.
And so what happens next?
So basically, I was going through um, some stuff there too. I also had, one point in time, been through sexual abuse while I was, in between that point of
Mhm.
living with her and moving in with my grandmother.
Mhm.
So, that was very difficult for me to admit to my family. Of course, I didn't feel like at that time that I got the support that I needed.
Mhm.
So I just dealt with it as best as I could. But I feel like that really caused a lot of, I would say, disheartening. You lose the sense of self and you lose
Mhm.
touch with reality of like who you are. Like this isn't happening to me, finding myself in a place I never thought I would. Because of course, when we're girls, we have our dreams and our
Mhm.
hopes and our ambitions, and then it's like life hits, and it's like nothing like we imagined. Playing Barbies and growing up.
Mhm.
So that was like
Mhm.
it was a harsh reality check for me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So now you're living. So, okay. So you go from your aunt, and then you have this altercation with a guy, right?
Mhm.
And then you move in with your grandmother. So what
Correct.
happens from there?
So after that, basically, I did wind up conceiving my first daughter
Mhm.
during that time. I graduated and I was like 6 months pregnant at that time when I walked across stage. So, of course, it wasn't the outcome that we hoped for me. My parents actually were moving back to the States during that time. So, my dad got stationed in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, nice.
So it was like, okay, go ahead and graduate, finish up, and then move back home, with us, and we'll make the best of it. So I wound up graduating and moving back to Florida to be with my parents, and of
Okay.
course at that time I was a single mom.
Mhm.
So it was very hard on everyone. It was hard on my family to adjust to that. It was hard on me to that reality.
Mhm.
So but once I got to Jacksonville, I do feel like it was a fresh start,
Mhm.
in a sense, because I was able to um, find my calling, which was nursing.
So how did that happen? Mhm.
So, really, the woman that introduced nursing to my mother came to her and told her, she was like, hey, um, I think your daughter would do very well with this. She has a great personality. It's called CNA. Maybe you should have her look into it. She was like, my daughter's been doing it for a while, and she was like, she loves it. So my mom was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll talk to her about it. So she came home one day, she sat me down, and she was like, now that you've decided to take care of your daughter, you're going to need something that's going to be able to help you take care of her, effectively, efficiently. So she was like, this career path it's hopeful, it's promising. You'll at
Mhm.
least start above minimum wage. She was trying to give me
Mhm.
some better options because it was like school just wasn't at that
They had
time.
flipping burgers.
Right. It was
Yeah.
like, you're going to find it. So
Mhm.
I had no idea that it would even existed. I didn't
Mhm.
even know what a CNA was. So when I went to school and I began learning, about all the details, and once I got my certification and actually started working, it was like,
Mhm.
okay, I actually like this.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I do feel like that was the start. And
Mhm.
then, of course, there was a lady who came to me, I'd say about 5 years after I was working as a CNA, and she was like, hey,
Mhm.
have you ever thought about becoming a nurse? And I was like, I have actually, I've been thinking about it. She was like, you need to do it.
Oh wow.
And
Mhm.
that's why I always tell people I feel like nursing called me. I didn't
Mhm.
really,
Call it, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
Oh wow. Okay, so you went from CNA because I'm not really familiar with that. My mother is a retired nurse, actually.
oh, good. That's
Yeah.
nice.
So I do, and my sister was a CNA. So I'm like, those are kind of two different things. So okay, I'm
Yes.
glad you explained like how that happened because I was
Correct.
like, that's not the same. Okay, got
Correct.
it.
CNA is the certified nursing
Assistant.
assistant.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're assisting the nurse with the patient's cares, and
Mm-hmm.
you're doing like the cleaning, the bathing,
Yeah.
changing. So it's a very humble experience. It's like you're starting from, the basics
Yeah.
in nursing before you can get to actually medication administration, assessments,
Mm-hmm.
which comes with once you get your nursing degree and license. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So, talk to us about the struggles, like, the things that you had to overcome, being a single mother, going to nursing school, like,
Man, it was so much struggle. I was working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. I was actually living in public housing for about 4 years.
mm-hmm.
And that was literally with the clothesline hanging in the backyard,
Ooh, yeah.
no dryer, like a one washing machine. Like it was really a struggle.
It was humbling.
It was very humbling, but I always tried to make heaven out of home, I should say. And I definitely did the best that I could. And my daughter, she's such an angel, especially during that early part of her childhood. She was just like so encouraging all the time, mommy, and it's gonna be okay, mommy. When I would talk to her about nursing school and how I was just doing this to get us through, and I said, we're gonna get us a house one day, baby. We're gonna be out here. Yes, yes. Because she would definitely say things like that when we would go to like my parents' house. She'd be like, Mom, we need to get a house too. And so
Mhm.
yeah, that was a part of my motivation, definitely. So it kept me going, and I feel like the struggles in life that we face,
Mhm.
it makes us who we are.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I appreciate having gone through that process, even though it was not easy. It was, yeah,
Yeah, and
definitely.
that's why I love doing this. I love people, coming on, sharing your story because staying silent helps no one.
Correct.
Right. And so being able to be transparent with your story, it just helps people connect with you better and it
Correct.
helps build your business and your brand better.
Correct.
So we're going to talk about that too, like,
Yes.
how you went from that and you always had a love for fashion
Yes.
and how you ended up in fashion. Now you're telling your story to help other people, which is amazing.
Yes. Thank
So
you.
let's talk about how you ended up with the business that you have now.
Okay, so to start from the square one point, I would say when I was 12, I begged my parents to put me into modeling school. So that's where my passion for fashion, I would say, began because I was put into modeling school. I graduated, and then I was able to do a few competitions. I did some commercials, printing, and things like that. So I had experience in modeling
Okay.
prior to, and that was definitely something I was looking at pursuing more full time.
Mhm.
Of course, before I began struggling with my own internal issues as a teenager,
Mhm.
that took me on a different path. So, of course, once I came to the States, it was more so like I was just working on being a mother,
Mhm.
making ends meet, trying to figure out how to bring stability to me and my daughter's life. So all of that went on the backside for a while. And once I was introduced to entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
it was more so like MLMs. It wasn't anything more direct, but it sparked something.
You know what? I tell people don't sleep on the MLMs because they get you that entrepreneurial start. Even if you don't make
Yes.
money in the particular MLM, they just get get your mind ready for the
Yes.
entrepreneurial journey because it's a journey
It
being an entrepreneur.
is. And that's what I'm discovering. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I learned so much, especially when I met a very close friend of mine that introduced me to entrepreneurship. It was like just being around the energy.
Yeah.
It it just changed my life. I was like, man, this is where it's at.
Yeah. Mhm.
I was like, I want to be here. I want to do this.
Mhm.
And I never lost sight of that, even throughout the years as I was working through nursing school, because it took me, I would say altogether about 6 years to ultimately to get to the BSN level.
Got it. Yeah.
As far as working through all of the steps that I had to
Mhm.
go through. Because some people, they go straight in, and
Mhm.
yeah, no, it took a long time.
Yeah.
So I
People
did
don't
that.
realize like entrepreneurship, it changes you as a whole. Like you literally have to transform into that.
Correct.
And some people catch it immediately. Some of us, most of us don't.
Yes.
So
It was,
kudos to
especially
you.
when you don't come from that in a background. You
Mhm.
haven't been raised, no one in your family's ever been a
Right.
business owner or entrepreneur themselves. So it's just like, how do I go about this?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say that's where it started.
So what's the name of your company?
So the actual corporation is Trinity Allure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my own personal brand, which is Shamona 101.
Mm-hmm.
And that brand is the women empowerment brand.
Love it.
And then I decided to launch the fashion campaign, which is Fashion and Fridays, which I utilize to help promote, women from all walks of life, all backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
who want to get into fashion and modeling, of course. And then at the same time, it's also helping to promote smaller businesses, boutiques, and
Mm.
fashion designers.
So you provide like the models for them?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I do have an agency underneath the umbrella of my corporation, and the agency is who I hire the models to actually work for me with the campaign.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's good. I tell people all the time, don't ever be afraid of how you start. It's
Yeah.
not even about how you start, but it's definitely how you finish.
Correct.
And it sounds like you've taken the things, the setbacks, and all the things that you had to overcome, and you turned it into good. So now you can help promote these other young ladies. So
Correct.
a lot of times it's like we become the people we needed, So would you
Yes.
say that that's what you're doing now?
Absolutely. This is a
Mhm.
part of my ministry. I love like just women in general. Like I feel like we all have so much that we can relate to each other as
Mhm.
sisters, not only, because I'm a woman of faith, of course, I believe the most high, he set us here for a reason, and we're meant to, just build each other up, to inspire, to empower, and that's why I love what I do, because I'm
Mhm.
like, this is where it needs to be. It shouldn't be any other way. Especially since I did have some poor experiences in the past, where I didn't necessarily receive that, support. And of course, women can be catty at times, and jealous and envy and things like that. So I'm like, how do we bring a different outlook?
Unity, yeah.
How do we create unity? How do we create the bonds that we need as women so that we can get past our insecurities? Because
Mhm.
that's ultimately what I feel like we deal with most of the time. It's just our own insecurities. So, having someone to help us to see through that, to see past that, which is why I love creating the images for the models when they, send me their content and I'm creating the campaign ads. It's bringing out their inner beauty, their inner, self, and of course the outer beauty as well.
I
So,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, what would you say to another young woman who, may be experiencing some of the things that had to experience from, sexual abuse to being a teenage mother? Because you were an actual teenage mother too, not just a single
Correct.
mother. That's
Correct.
that's another level within
Correct.
itself.
Correct.
What would you tell her, to inspire her?
I would tell her self love first.
Mm-hmm.
Self love is the best love that you will ever understand, because once you understand self love, you will understand love more in general. Like it's just so much to that. I just feel like I did not love myself initially, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what self-love was. So because of that, I was allowing things and I was making poor choices and decisions out of that. So I feel like that would be the first lesson I would try to teach a young lady who is wanting to get into, any type of, I don't care if even if it is an entrepreneurship, anything in life,
Mm-hmm.
self love first.
I'm glad you said that because it sounds like a cliche. Oh, just love yourself. And, it sounds like, oh, you're just saying that. But when you really get into the meat and potatoes of what that really means,
Right.
it's like, being, because I grew up in an environment where I felt like I wasn't loved and things of that nature. So I made a lot of bad decisions.
Mm,
And so we were always looking for somebody to love us more than we loved ourselves,
correct.
which is the problem,
Correct.
right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And you don't value yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand your worth. So out of that misunderstanding,
Yeah.
you make the poor choices and decisions. And I think that that's why I had to go back and do the work, the healing, the recovery. And of course, it didn't stop there.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go through other things. But I feel like to have gone through that and to be where I am right now spiritually and holistically, I am just so grateful. Grateful
Yes.
to have made it, yeah, this far. Like,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
I love the fact that you're in the nursing space and you get to travel, right?
Yes,
Which is
I
that
still
sounds
get
like
to
fun.
travel.
I don't know if that's fun. Is it fun?
It's so fun.
Oh,
I
that's
loved it.
awesome.
Yes, I just love traveling because to me, traveling, it just opens your mind to the world. Like you get to see, you know, things from different walks of life and perspectives. Like it's just so much out there. And I was actually, even on the way here, I was talking to the Uber driver. He was saying he was from Colombia and he lives in Colombia now, even though he was born here in the States.
Oh.
But he expatted some years ago and he was like, I love it. I love traveling abroad. And he said that basically the way we live here and the way he lives in Colombia is like he's living like a king over there. Like,
Oh, with the American dollar, yes. Exactly.
correct, correct. So it's like you just don't know, if you don't travel the world and see, you never know what you're missing out on. So,
That is so true. Wow.
yeah.
So tell people how they can find you.
Okay, so I have, of course, my Instagram, which is Shamona101 underscore. And then from there, you can go to my link tree on my bio page, and I have my YouTube channel. And then also, I'll be linking my website.
Nice.
Yes, I'm super excited. That is going to be on the web within the next few weeks. So,
Awesome.
yes,
So where do you see
looking
yourself in the next 5 years?
forward. Definitely with the Fashion at Fridays and moving, I see just being able to create opportunities for women, better opportunities, even if it's not necessarily in fashion.
Okay.
One thing about it, I just know that sometimes we don't know what the Most High has planned for us. So I do believe that this platform is going to help get me ultimately to where he's taking me, and I know that this is where I'm meant to be though, and to help other women get to where they want to be in life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on
you,
Stories Over
Shannon. I appreciate
Shannon.
it. Thank you so
You are
much.
so welcome.
Yeah, so happy I was able to come.
Me too. You take
Yeah.
care.